Please leave a comment where you are watching from. I've always hated family dinners. So when I matched with Rachel on Tinder and she invited me out for something chill and low-key, I expected tacos, maybe drinks. A patio somewhere in South Austin. Something casual. What I didn't expect was a table for 9. And her entire family waiting for me. On the first date, Rachel had this disarming smile in her photos. The kind that makes you stop scrolling. Something about her eyes, sharp but kind. Her profile said, "Dog mom, teacher, likes early morning walks and people who aren't afraid of weird questions." She messaged me first. "Rachel, are you emotionally available or just bored?" I laughed out loud and wrote back, "Me, both. But I'm working on it." We hit it off fast. She told me she taught 6th grade science and had a corgi named Pluto. We joked about bad dates, shared Spotify playlists, and swapped ghost stories after she found out I used to live in a supposedly haunted apartment near the UT campus. By the end of the week, she asked if I was free Sunday night. "I know this really good family-run Italian place," she said. "It's quiet, intimate." That sounded perfect. I didn't realize she meant family-run in the most literal sense. The restaurant was in East Austin. I showed up 15 minutes early because I'm that guy, nervous, punctual, always wondering if I've overdressed. I texted her, "Me, I'm here. Want me to grab a table?" No answer. A minute later, I saw her waving from inside. I walked in and froze. She wasn't alone. There were 8 other people at the table. An older woman and man, probably her parents. 2 younger women who looked like sisters. A tall guy with a jawline you could slice bread on. And a couple of kids, maybe 10 or 11, playing with the sugar packets. Rachel stood up, all smiles. "Evan, you made it." She kissed my cheek and gestured to the table like this was completely normal. "Everyone, this is Evan. Evan, this is well, everyone." I laughed nervously. Did I miss a birthday or? "Nope. Just dinner," she said. "We do this every Sunday. It's kind of a tradition." I looked at the table again. There was already a chair for me. A menu. A glass of water. A place set. Like they'd been expecting me. I sat down slowly. The introductions were a blur. Her dad leaned in first. "So, what are your intentions with our Rachel?" I laughed again, thinking it was a joke. He didn't smile. "Just kidding," he finally said, but the pause had been too long. Too serious. Her mom jumped in. Asked what I did for work. Whether I liked kids. If I was religious. If I planned on staying in Austin long term. I hadn't even ordered food yet. Rachel just sat there, sipping wine like this was completely normal. I tried to pull her aside when the waiter came to take orders. "Hey, I thought this was just us." She smiled. "Yeah, I probably should have mentioned. My family's really important to me." I figured, why wait? "Wait for what?" "For you to meet them," she said, like it was obvious. "Dating is about integration. Seeing how you fit." "On the first date?" She shrugged. "It saves time." I spent the next hour being grilled like a steak. Her uncle, I hadn't even caught his name, asked if I had any medical conditions he should know about, in case there are genetic concerns down the road. Her cousin asked how much I made per year. Her younger sister wanted to know if I'd ever cheated. One of the kids asked if I was going to be their new uncle. Rachel just kept sipping wine and smiling. When dessert came, her dad raised a toast. "To new beginnings," he said, "and to good men who know when they've found something special." Everyone clinked glasses. I didn't move. After dessert, I stood up to use the restroom. Rachel followed me. She caught me by the hallway and whispered, "You okay?" I tried to keep my voice light. "That was a lot." She tilted her head. "You didn't like it?" "I mean, they're nice, but I thought this was going to be you and me." "It is," she said. "This is me. My family's part of that. If you're dating me, you're dating them too." I stared at her. She wasn't joking. And she wasn't backing down. I nodded slowly. "Okay. I think I'm gonna head out." Her smile faded. "Seriously?" "Yeah." She looked hurt. Not angry, just disappointed. "I thought you were different," she said. I didn't answer. I just walked out. I thought that was it. Weird date. Red flag. Lesson learned. But 3 days later, I got a Facebook friend request from her mom. Then an Instagram follow from her sister. Then a group text from a number I didn't recognize. "Family Sunday chat. We missed you this week, Evan. Hope everything's okay." I left the chat. Blocked the number. Blocked Rachel. That Saturday, someone rang my doorbell. I live in a duplex. No gate. No security camera. I opened the door. There was a gift basket on my porch. Wine, pasta, a jar of sauce, and a note. Since you didn't get to take any leftovers. No hard feelings. I didn't text her. Didn't say thank you. I threw the basket away. The next morning, I found a photo slipped under my door. It was me, sitting at the dinner table, looking off to the side mid-chew while Rachel's dad stared at me. No caption, no message, just the photo. I moved apartments 2 months later. New neighborhood, new number. No more Sunday dinners. No more family traditions. No more Rachel. Ghosting is supposed to be the end of things. You block a number, delete a contact, maybe feel a little guilty, but it's over. The other person fades. You move on. That's how it works. At least, that's how it's supposed to work. But Matthew didn't fade. He followed. Not in the obvious sense. Not with footsteps or knock-knock stalking. He was quieter than that. Smarter. More patient. And it all started with a note under my windshield wiper. We matched in early May, right after the first real stretch of sun broke through the gray Seattle spring. I was in that restless, I should get out there again headspace. Swiping half-heartedly. Not expecting much. Matthew's profile was simple and clean. 3 photos. One with a dog, golden retriever, bonus points. One at a mountaintop, and one black and white shot of him sitting in a coffee shop, staring out the window. His bio read, "Looking for quiet moments and loud laughter. I make a mean French press." It wasn't flashy, but it felt grounded. We matched on a Tuesday. He messaged first. "Matthew, I'll make you coffee if you promise not to ghost after 1 cup." I smiled. Me. Only if it's strong. Matthew, it's stronger than my last relationship. We met 4 days later. Saturday afternoon. Pike Place. He wore a soft gray hoodie, dark jeans, and that kind of easy confidence you can't fake. Not overly charming. Just calm. Present. He smelled like cedar and something faintly herbal, like tea or cologne made for introverts. We walked through the market, got coffee from a little place tucked into an alley, and sat on a bench overlooking the water. He asked about my job, I work in UX design, my favorite soundtrack, Interstellar, and whether I believe in fate. "Not really," I said. He smiled. "That's okay. I believe in it enough for both of us." We kissed before I got into my car. It was soft, warm, promising. We saw each other 3 more times over the next 2 weeks. Dinner, a museum exhibit, a slow walk around Green Lake, where he reached for my hand without asking. He was sweet, thoughtful, a little intense, but in a way that felt flattering at first. He remembered everything I said, quoted it back later, like proof he was paying attention. "You said you hate olives, right? You mentioned your brother lives in Portland. Do you miss him? You once said you feel most alone in elevators." I've been thinking about that. It should have felt romantic. Instead, it started to feel like surveillance. But I ignored that feeling. Because he hadn't done anything wrong. Not yet. Things shifted the night I stayed over at his place. It wasn't planned. We'd had dinner, watched a movie on his couch, and ended up wrapped around each other under a blanket. His apartment was too clean. Not in a neat freak kind of way, more like it hadn't been lived in. No clutter, no laundry, no dishes in the sink. The only personal touches were framed photos on the wall. At first, I didn't notice, but when I walked past them to the bathroom, I paused. They weren't of friends, or nature, or travel. They were of women, all black and white, all candid, or at least made to look that way, all alone. One brushing her hair, another reading, one asleep. In different apartments, different rooms. I asked him about them when I came back. He said he was capturing intimacy. "It's part of a project," he said, documenting people in their most unguarded moments. "Did they know?" I asked. He smiled. "Of course." Something about the way he said it made my stomach twist. I left early the next morning. I didn't text him for a few days. He texted twice. "Matthew, did I do something wrong?" "Matthew." I liked where this was going. I didn't reply. Then he DM'd me on Instagram. Commented on an old post of mine. I blocked him. That should have been it. But it wasn't. 3 days later, I found the note. Folded. Tucked under my windshield wiper. No envelope. Just one sentence. "I'm still thinking about that joke you made about elevators." I froze in the parking lot. My car was parked outside my apartment, in a gated lot. I looked around. No one nearby. I crumpled the note, tossed it, and told myself it was a one-off. That maybe he got drunk. that he'd move on. He didn't. The next morning, there was another note. Same paper. Folded the same way. You look tired today. I hope you're sleeping. I called the police. They said they couldn't do much. He hasn't threatened you, the officer said. Technically, this isn't harassment unless he repeats the behavior. He already has, I said. They took a report. Promised to make a note of it. I didn't feel any safer. I installed a camera by my front door. Left the porch light on all night. Started parking 3 blocks away and walking home just to feel like I had control over who saw me. But it didn't matter. The notes kept coming. Always handwritten. Always short. Always unnervingly specific. You wore red today. I like that color on you. You smiled at the barista. He didn't deserve it. I know you're trying to forget me. I'm patient. I never saw him. Never heard footsteps. Never caught a glimpse. Just the notes. Then he escalated. One night, I came home to find one of my Polaroids pinned to my front door. It was from years ago, me and my dog, sitting on my old balcony. I didn't remember posting it anywhere, but I did remember the shirt I was wearing in it, because it had a bleach stain on the sleeve, and I'd thrown it out 2 years ago. I packed a bag and stayed with a friend across town. Told work I needed a few days remote. Filed for a restraining order. The process was slow. Too slow. I changed my number. Deleted all my social media. Got a new lock. Still, I didn't sleep. The final note came a week later. It was waiting on my friend's doorstep. No one knew I was staying there. No one but Matthew. The note read, "You can run, but I don't need to follow. I'm already where you sleep." I moved again. Out of state. New apartment. You ever meet someone who just gets you? Like right away. No awkward small talk. No wondering if they're into you. Just instant connection. Like kismet. Like, where have you been all my life? That was Lauren. And for about 6 days, it was kind of perfect. Until it wasn't. Until it got dark. I've been on Tinder long enough to know how these things usually go. You match, you flirt, maybe you meet up. Half the time, there's no chemistry. The other half, it fizzles out before the second date. I wasn't looking for anything special. Then Lauren matched with me. Her profile didn't scream anything unusual. 3 photos, all tasteful. One of her in a flowy sundress on a rooftop bar, another with her holding a glass of wine and smiling, and a third of her next to a golden retriever. Her bio was short. Lover of deep convos, espresso martinis, and bad decisions. Let's make one together. I messaged first. Me, define bad decision. Because I've made a few. Lauren, how tall are you? Now normally that would have been a red flag. I know how that sounds. But something in her tone felt playful. She wasn't one of those height checkers. Just direct. Me, 6 feet 1 inch. You. Lauren, 5 feet 8 inches. Emotionally 4 feet 11 inches. I laughed. We kept texting. Her vibe was electric. She replied fast, had great timing, and wasn't afraid to flirt hard. She told me she worked in marketing at a local agency downtown. Said she liked running, but only when she was angry. That her parents were divorced but civil. That her ex was a non-event. We met up 2 days later. Drinks at a bar on King Street. She wore a black halter top, red lipstick, and smelled like coconut and something sharp underneath, like peppercorn or burnt sugar. She walked in like she owned the place. I liked that. We ordered 2 espresso martinis and sat at a table in the back. Within 10 minutes, we were already joking like we'd known each other for years. No awkward silences. No checking phones. She touched my arm when she laughed. Bit her lip when I leaned closer. Told me I had that quiet, dangerous energy. We made out in the parking lot outside her building. She texted me before I even got home. Lauren, I'm not trying to freak you out, but I think I might already be obsessed with you. I smiled. It felt flattering. Intense, sure, but flattering. Me, I'll try not to disappoint. Lauren, good. I'd hate to have to kill you. She added a winky face after that. I laughed. In hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have. Day 2. She asked to see me again. That night. I said sure. We ordered Thai and watched the girl with the dragon tattoo on her couch. She curled up next to me like we'd done this 100 times. Halfway through, she turned and said deadpan, "If you ghost me, I will find you." I chuckled. That's fair. She didn't laugh. I stayed the night. We didn't sleep much. Day 3. She brought me coffee at work. Like showed up. 8:52 a.m. Texted. Look out your window. There she was, standing on the sidewalk with 2 lattes and a muffin. Now, I hadn't told her where I worked. That tripped a wire in my brain. I came downstairs, smiling, pretending not to be weirded out. Me, how'd you find this place? Lauren, you mentioned your office was near the river. I reverse searched your LinkedIn. I paused. You're thorough. She leaned in. I like to know things. She kissed my cheek and walked off. Day 4. She texted me nonstop. Like nonstop. No exaggeration. 62 texts over the course of my workday. If I didn't reply within 10 minutes, she'd double text. Lauren, are you mad? Lauren, I'm sorry if I said something weird. Lauren, I just feel really close to you, that's all. I told her I was slammed at work. She apologized. 2 hours later, she sent a photo of her in the bath with a caption. Wish you were here. That night, she asked if I wanted to meet her parents. I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Day 5. She showed up at my place. Uninvited. She'd never been there before. I never gave her my address. I came home from the gym and found her sitting on my stoop, holding a plastic container of lasagna. I made this for you, she said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I asked how she found my place. She said she just followed the trail. I didn't press. We ate. It was good. We had sex. She cried after, said she didn't know why. I held her awkwardly until she fell asleep. I stayed awake. That's when I started to feel it. The shift. The thing that happens when someone crosses from intense to unsettling. Day 6. I told her we needed space. I was gentle. Said I liked her, but it was moving too fast. She didn't respond for 5 hours. Then she sent a string of messages. Lauren, I knew this would happen. Lauren, you're just like everyone else. Lauren, you said you liked me. Was that a lie? Lauren, I don't understand. Lauren, don't do this to me. Lauren, please. I didn't reply. She sent a voice memo. I didn't listen. Then she posted a photo on Instagram, black and white, her face half in shadow, mascara streaked. The caption. He said he was different. Day 7. I blocked her. Phone. Instagram. Tinder. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. Unknown. You think I can't find you? I blocked it. New number the next day. Unknown. You can't ghost a ghost. I reported it. Changed my number. Thought maybe I was safe. I wasn't. About a week later, a coworker said someone had called the office asking for me. Said she was my fiancée. Left a message. Tell Jay I forgive him. I hadn't told anyone at work about Lauren. No one even knew I was dating. That night, I checked the security camera outside my building. I don't usually, but something told me to look. There she was. 2:38 a.m. Standing across the street. Just standing. Not moving. Staring at my window. She stood there for 47 minutes. Then walked away. I started sleeping with the lights on. Started checking the back seat of my car before getting in. Started carrying a pocket knife. I'd never done that before. 2 days after that, I got a package. No return address. Inside, a photo strip. You know, the kind you take in a booth at the mall. Except I hadn't gone to any booth. The photos were of me. In my apartment. Sleeping. Different angles. Different nights. In one, my eyes were barely open like I'd stirred. She'd been inside. I called the police. They took a report. Told me there wasn't much they could do unless she made a direct threat or physically harmed me. I asked about restraining orders. They said I'd need her name, address, more evidence. I realized then, I didn't even know her last name. I moved. New apartment. New locks. Different part of town. No social media. No dating apps. No contact. For a while things were quiet. Then I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. There was only one sentence. I know you still think about me. I burned it. That was 8 months ago. I still don't use dating apps. I still double-check my locks every night. Sometimes, when I'm driving, I see a woman with long hair and red lipstick in the rearview mirror and feel my chest tighten. My friends say I'm being paranoid. Maybe I am. I met Clara on a Thursday evening. I was at home in Asheville, North Carolina, sitting on my front porch, watching the last of the sunlight bleed through the trees, when I decided to open Tinder again. I hadn't used it in over a month. The last few dates had been forgettable at best, and I was starting to think I just wasn't cut out for this whole app thing. But Clara's profile made me pause. Her pictures weren't flashy or graphic, which puts me off. One was her sitting on a park bench with a paperback tucked under her arm. Another was her smiling in a kitchen, flour on her cheek and a bowl of dough in front of her. The last was her standing barefoot in a field at golden hour, her hair tangled in the wind, looking more serene than posed. We matched 10 minutes later. Her first message: "Please tell me you don't own a ring light." We messaged for 3 days straight. Then she suggested we meet up. We agreed on a Sunday dinner. Casual. A little Italian place on the edge of town called Luigi's on Lexington. She said it was her favorite, cozy, low-lighting, great wine. I got there early, nervous in a way I hadn't been in years. She arrived 5 minutes late, wearing a navy dress and boots. She looked like her pictures, but even softer, more real. Her smile was warm, and her laugh came easy. We talked about everything: books, music, childhood memories, our mutual distaste for pumpkin spice anything. She told me about her childhood in Tennessee, how she moved to Asheville to get away from her family, how she found a kind of peace here. I told her about my freelance photography, my dog, and the time I accidentally booked a wedding shoot at the wrong venue. She laughed so hard she snorted. It was, without question, the best date I'd ever been on. After dinner, we walked through downtown. The streets were quiet, the air just starting to cool. We stopped at a mural and joked about the strange bird painted with human hands. She told me I had kind eyes. And then she kissed me. Not a polite, see you later kiss. A real one. I offered to walk her to her car. She shook her head. I parked a few blocks over. "I'll be fine." "Are you sure?" I asked. She smiled. "Dorian, I'm not a ghost." And then she turned and walked down the street. I watched her go. Then I never saw her again. The next day I texted her. "Me, last night was amazing. Dinner next weekend?" No response. I waited a few hours. Still nothing. I sent another the next morning. "Me, hey, everything okay?" Nothing. I checked her Tinder profile. Gone. I figured maybe she unmatched me. Maybe she freaked out. Maybe she changed her mind. I told myself not to overthink it. But then I felt it. That itch in the back of the brain. That voice that says, something's not right. I went to the bookstore where she said she worked, the Paper Lantern on Haywood. The woman at the counter looked confused when I asked for Clara. "We don't have anyone by that name," she said. "Are you sure?" She said she works here, dark hair, blue eyes, about 5'5". The woman shook her head. "I've worked here for 3 years. I'd know." I left with my stomach in knots. I tried searching her name online. Nothing. No Facebook, no Instagram, no LinkedIn. I checked people search sites. No Clara matching her description in Asheville. No public records. No phone numbers. She didn't exist. Or at least not here. But I saw her. I talked to her. We kissed. This wasn't some made-up persona or catfish situation. She was real. But she was also completely untraceable. I started to wonder, had someone else seen her? So I went back to Luigi's. Sat down at the same table. Waited until the same waiter from the other night walked by. "Hey," I said. "Do you remember who was working Sunday night?" He blinked. "I was. You waited on my table. I was with a woman, dark hair, blue eyes, navy dress." He hesitated. "I think I remember," he said slowly. "Yeah, she was quiet. Ordered the mushroom risotto, right?" "Yes," I said, relief washing over me. But then he frowned. "She left early though, didn't she?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" He scratched his chin. "I just remember you sitting alone for a while. Maybe 20 minutes. I thought she bailed mid-date." "No," I said. "She stayed the whole time. We left together." He looked uncomfortable. "I don't think so, man. I remember refilling your water a few times while you waited. I even offered you the dessert menu. You said you were waiting on someone." I stared at him. That didn't make sense. We both ate. We both walked out together, didn't we? He shook his head and walked away. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell was going on. Was I losing my mind? Was she never there? But I remembered the kiss, the smell of her hair, the way her hand brushed mine when she laughed. I hadn't imagined that. I couldn't have. The next day, I went back to the spot where we said goodbye. I walked the street she had taken. Nothing unusual. Just sidewalk and trees and a few parked cars. I kept walking, retracing her steps. Then I saw it. A missing person flyer. Not Clara, but a woman who looked a lot like her. Dark hair. Blue eyes. Reported missing 3 months ago. Name, Elaine Wren. I took a photo of the flyer and went home. I searched that name. Found an old news article. Elaine Wren, 27, vanished after leaving a poetry reading in Knoxville, Tennessee. Last seen wearing a navy dress and brown boots. My chest tightened. I pulled up Clara's photos from Tinder. They weren't exactly the same, but close. Close enough to feel wrong. Close enough that I started questioning everything. I tried calling the number listed on the flyer. A woman answered. Her voice cracked when I asked about Elaine. "I'm her sister," she said. I told her what I knew. About Clara. About Asheville. About the date. She didn't speak for a moment. Then she whispered, "That sounds like her. But it can't be." "Why not?" "Because she's dead." My blood turned to ice. "They found her car in the river near Sevierville," she said. "No body. But everything else was there. Her purse. Her ID. Her phone. They ruled it an accident." "But what if it wasn't?" I asked. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I saw her. I talked to her. She kissed me." The line went silent. Then she whispered, "That's not possible." I haven't stopped thinking about Clara. Or Elaine. Whoever she was. I don't know what happened that night. I don't know if I imagined her. If I dreamed the whole thing. Or if something found its way back and wore her skin for a little while. All I know is this. I saw her. I felt her breath on my neck. And when she turned that corner and vanished into the dark, I swear the street got colder. Like something took her back. Like she was never supposed to be here in the first place. So if you ever meet someone who seems too perfect, if they vanish without a trace, if you try to find them and they're not in any system, not in any record, not anywhere, walk away. Some ghosts don't haunt houses. They haunt hearts. And they're looking for someone to remember them, even if they were never real to begin with. It started with Tinder, well, of course. I was living in Portland, Oregon, working remotely as a UX designer for a tech company based out of Boston. I'd gotten used to the loneliness that comes teamed up with long hours and rainy afternoons. Swiping became more of a habit than a hope of mine. But then Jiro's profile stopped me in my tracks. He wasn't just attractive, he looked like someone who had stories to share, and I love stories. His photos were the perfect blend of rugged and thoughtful. Hiking, working out, long walks, rock climbing. I swiped right with no hesitation. His first message came through seconds later. "Jiro, so what was your weirdest dream?" "You promised." I laughed out loud. It wasn't the usual hey or creepy compliment. It had personality. We started messaging, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. He was curious, smart, charming. He asked me about my job, my favorite local coffee shops, the last book I read. He even knew obscure Portland references, like the weird goat statue in Lentz Park and that one food cart that sells sushi burritos and never seems to be open. It felt real. After a few days, we moved to texting. I liked Jiro more than I expected. I found myself glancing at my phone during meetings, smiling when his name popped up. He made me feel heard, seen, like I mattered. After a week, he asked if I wanted to meet up. We agreed on a Thursday night. Low-key. Drinks at a bar in the Pearl District called the Velvet Antler. It was stylish but cozy, dim lighting, good cocktails, and tucked away enough to feel like a secret. He said he'd be wearing a navy peacoat and a brown beanie. I wore a green sweater dress and boots. I remember feeling nervous in a way I hadn't felt in years. Excited, yes, but something else too. That buzzing undercurrent of adrenaline you get when you're about to step into something you don't fully understand. When I arrived, he was already there, seated at a corner table, sipping an old-fashioned. And he looked just like his photos. Almost. That's the thing I can't explain. He was the guy in the pictures, absolutely, but there was something off. Like when you see a wax statue of a celebrity and it's perfect, but not quite alive. His eyes were a little too still. His smile didn't quite reach his face. But I ignored it. I told myself I was overthinking. We greeted each other with a hug. He smelled like cedar and spice. His voice matched his texts, low, smooth, a little playful. We ordered drinks and started talking about everything: music, travel, photography, the absurdity of dating apps. He told me he used to live in Tokyo before moving to Portland for work. Said he freelanced in digital photography and did event gigs. Mentioned a wedding he'd shot at a vineyard in Hood River. He even showed me a couple photos on his phone, moody, black and white portraits that looked like they belonged in a gallery. It was a good date, but there were cracks. Small ones. Whenever I asked about his job, he'd get vague. "I'm between projects," he'd say. Or, the freelance hustle. When I asked which neighborhood he lived in, he said, sort of close to Alberta, but couldn't name a cross street. When I joked that he was like a Portland cryptid, he laughed and said, "Maybe I am." I brushed it off. Not everyone wants to share everything on a first date, right? Still, something didn't feel right. We said goodbye with a long hug and a kiss on the cheek. He texted me that night, "Jiro, you're even better in real life. Let's do this again." I agreed. But that night, lying in bed, the unease gnawed at me. So I did something I don't usually do. I ran a reverse image search on his profile pictures. The results hit me like a punch to the chest. Every single one of Jiro's pictures belonged to someone else. They weren't stock photos, but they were stolen. One was from a Japanese travel blog, another from a professional photographer's Instagram based in Seattle. The bookstore cafe shot. That was from a Reddit post 2 years ago, posted by a user named @Wanderlight. None of them were him. And suddenly everything clicked. The vague answers. The way he dodged specifics. The fact that he knew just enough about Portland to sound convincing, but not enough to feel authentic. I felt sick. I tried searching his number, nothing. No LinkedIn, no social media, no matches in the usual people search sites. It was like he didn't exist. Except he had shown up. I had seen him, talked to him, hugged him. So who was he? The next morning I texted him. "Me, hey, weird question. Are those really your photos?" He didn't reply for hours. When he finally did, it was short. "Jiro, why?" I told him the truth about the reverse image search, the links, the blog. I asked him who he really was. He left me on read. Never responded again. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Then I went back to Tinder, and his profile was gone. Just like that. Vanished. But it didn't end there. A couple days later, I got a message from a local Reddit user. I'd posted a vague warning in our /Portland about catfishing and people using stolen images. Someone replied with, "I think I talked to the same guy. Looked like the photos, but something was off. He called himself Kenji. Same line about being a photographer." Another person chimed in. He told me he was a painter. Went by Tomo. Same photos. Another. He matched with my roommate last month as Riku. Same story. Same weird vibe. It wasn't just me. He'd done this to multiple women. Dozens, maybe more. Always the same photos. Always a different name. A ghost in the machine. I don't know what he wanted. He never asked for money. He didn't try to scam me. He didn't even push for anything physical. It was like he just wanted to be believed. To be loved, maybe. But the thing that haunts me isn't what he did. It's how easy it was for him to do it. How many details he got right. How convincing he was. How I sat across from a man who didn't exist and felt something real. I don't use Tinder anymore. And I haven't been back to the Velvet Antler. Every now and then, I get a message from a friend saying, "Hey, doesn't this guy look familiar?" And they'll send me a screenshot of a new profile, different name, same face. He's still out there. Still pretending. Still slipping into lives like a shadow. So if you ever match with someone who seems too polished, too mysterious, too good to be true, trust your gut. Because some people aren't looking for love. They're just looking for a place to hide. It started one humid Tuesday evening in Savannah, Georgia. I'd been on Tinder for maybe a few months, nothing serious, just seeing who was out there. I wasn't really looking for anything too intense, just someone to talk to, grab a drink with, maybe see where things went. I matched with this guy named Tenzin. The name caught my eye first. It was different, not someone I'd heard of before. His profile was simple. A few photos, one of him at a beach, another on a hiking trail, and a third holding a rescue dog. His bio said something like, "Just a good guy trying to live a good life. Ask me about my favorite books." It was refreshing. Tenzin messaged me first. He said something charming but not cheesy, something like, "You look like you read poetry and make fun of people who vape." I laughed. I don't even remember what I responded with, but it kicked off a conversation that lasted for hours. He was funny, thoughtful, and witty. He asked questions, not in a creepy, prying way, but in a way that made me feel like he genuinely wanted to understand who I was. We talked about movies from our childhood, weird food combos we secretly liked, and even our worst date stories. I felt this weird, instant connection that I hadn't felt in a long time. He wasn't pushy. He didn't ask for more pictures or make weird comments. We kept texting for a few days. He'd check in every morning with something like, "Hope your coffee's strong and your coworkers are bearable." It was silly, but it made me smile. After 4 days of nonstop texting, he asked if I wanted to meet up for coffee at this little cafe near Forsyth Park. I said yes. The day of the date, I was nervous but excited. I remember standing in front of my closet for way too long, trying to pick something that said, "I'm chill, but also I tried." I finally settled on a simple dress and low-top sneakers. When I got there, he was already waiting outside, wearing a navy button-down and jeans. He looked just like his pictures, maybe even better. He smiled when he saw me, this warm, easy smile that immediately put me at ease. We had coffee and talked for almost 2 hours. The conversation didn't stall once. He told me about growing up in Boulder, Colorado, and how he ended up in Savannah for work. He said he worked in nonprofit management, something to do with youth outreach programs. I told him about my job in graphic design and how I was trying to get more freelance clients. He listened, really listened, and even remembered little details I'd mentioned earlier. After that, we started seeing each other regularly. He'd planned simple but thoughtful dates: a walk along the riverfront, a picnic at Bonaventure Cemetery, dinner at a Thai place I'd never tried. Everything felt easy with him. Comfortable. Safe. That's probably what made the fall so hard. It started with little things. He'd mention his ex, Nalia, more than I thought was necessary. At first, it was in passing. Nalia used to love this song, or we came to this place once. It didn't bother me too much. We all have pasts, right? But slowly, the tone of how he talked about her began to shift. He'd joke that she was obsessed with him, that she wouldn't leave him alone. "She still messages me, can you believe that?" he'd say with a chuckle. "Some people just can't let go." I remember laughing nervously the first time he said that, not knowing what to say. I asked him once, "Are you sure she's not going through something difficult? Maybe she just needs closure." He waved it off. "She's unstable," he said. "It's not my job to fix her." That should have been the first red flag. But I didn't want to be the suspicious girlfriend. We weren't even exclusive yet. I told myself he was just being honest, maybe even venting. I didn't want to seem jealous or controlling, so I let it go. But the mentions of Nalia didn't stop. In fact, they increased. He'd tell me she was still calling, still texting, still trying to see him. "She just won't take a hint," he'd say. "I haven't responded in months." He said it so casually, like it was an annoying fly buzzing around that he couldn't get rid of. I started to feel uneasy. I didn't know why exactly. It wasn't just the way he talked about her. It was the way he laughed when he did. It felt off, too rehearsed, too dismissive. I wanted to believe him, so I did. But something in my gut told me not to. The real turning point came one night when we were watching a movie at his place. He got up to go to the bathroom and left his phone on the coffee table. I wasn't trying to snoop, but when it buzzed, the preview showed a name I recognized. Nalia. My stomach flipped. The message was short. "I don't understand you." I stared at it, my fingers twitching. I knew I shouldn't, but I picked up the phone. It wasn't locked. My heart was hammering in my chest as I opened the thread. I expected desperate messages from her. Pleading. Apologies. Maybe even angry rants. What I found was something else entirely. The messages weren't from her to him. They were from him to her. Dozens of them. He was the one texting her. Long, emotional messages saying how much he missed her. Telling her how he never wanted things to end the way they did. Saying he couldn't stop thinking about her, that he still loved her. I scrolled further. There were photos. Photos of him and me. Selfies we'd taken at Wormslow Historic Site, pictures from our dinner dates, even one of me laughing in his kitchen. He'd sent them to her, along with captions like, "Trying to move on. You wouldn't believe how happy I look. But it's just a mask." I felt like I was going to be sick. My hands were shaking. I put the phone down just in time before he came back from the bathroom. I tried to act normal, but I could barely focus on the movie. My mind was spinning. He had lied about everything. About being over her. About not responding to her messages. About who he really was. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to scream, to confront him right then and there. But another part of me was frozen. I couldn't believe any of this was real. How could someone so kind, so attentive, be so deceptive? Over the next few days, I kept my distance. I couldn't bring myself to answer his texts. I was trying to process it all, but the more I thought about it, the worse it got. He hadn't just lied, he'd manipulated me. Played both of us. He wanted her back, but used me as a way to provoke her. Or maybe he was just trying to convince himself he'd moved on. I'll never know. When I finally broke up with him, I didn't tell him what I found. I just said I needed space, that I didn't think we were a good match. He tried to talk me out of it, said he cared about me, that he was serious about us. But I knew better. I didn't give him a chance to explain. I deleted his number that night, blocked him on everything. I erased his photos, our messages, even the playlist we'd made together. It felt like I was scrubbing him out of my life. "Oh God," I screamed while gripping the edges of the leather couch. "Oh God." That's when it happened. A chime echoed through the room, followed by a cool, robotic voice. "Would you like to order a spiritual guide?" We both froze. Everything stopped, breath, rhythm, the world itself. For a moment, even the air in my Washington, D.C. apartment seemed to hesitate. It was Alexa. She'd been listening. And that was just the beginning. I matched with George on a rainy Thursday. I remember because I was curled up on the couch in my favorite oversized hoodie, watching reruns of Fringe and swiping through Tinder more out of boredom than hope. His profile was clean. Just 3 photos. One of him at a food truck festival, another hiking in Shenandoah, and the last one, my favorite, just him smiling casually, holding a paperback copy of Slaughterhouse-Five. No filters, no gym selfies, no obnoxious bios. His opening message was simple. "Are you real? Because I've been caught in catfish territory one too many times." I laughed. We started talking. And the messages didn't stop for days. George was different. Not just in the he listens kind of way, but in the way he spoke. He was thoughtful, curious, and a little bit sarcastic in the best way. We talked about everything, books, art, the weirdest things we'd ever ordered on Amazon. He made me laugh so much I found myself checking my phone every 10 minutes just to see if he'd replied. We met a week later for coffee in Georgetown. It was 5:30 p.m., and the sky was turning that perfect kind of orange that makes the city glow. I spotted him leaning against a lamppost, wearing a gray sweater and dark jeans. He looked nervous in person, but his smile was the same. And holy hell, was he taller than I expected. Our first date lasted 4 hours. We talked until the cafe closed, then walked along the waterfront. He kissed me under a string of fairy lights outside a bar that was closing down for the night. It was cinematic. It felt like something out of a movie. By the 3rd date, I was hooked. And by the 4th, we were tangled in my sheets, laughing, kissing, and pausing long enough to remember how much we liked each other outside of the physical stuff. Then came the night Alexa joined in. It was a Saturday night, and we were 3 glasses of wine deep. We'd cooked together, some lazy version of pasta with way too much garlic, and ended up on the couch, tangled in each other, half watching a documentary about cults, which is exactly the kind of thing I watch when I'm trying to feel better about my own life choices. One thing led to another, and, well, we forgot about the spaghetti. Things got intense. George was more vocal than usual, and I wasn't exactly silent either. We weren't loud enough to wake the neighbors, but definitely not whispering sweet nothings either. And then in the middle of it, right at the peak, he shouted, "Oh God!" I echoed it, loudly, repeatedly, and that's when Alexa chimed in. "Would you like to order a spiritual guide?" We both stopped mid-motion. George stared at me. I stared at him. Then we both turned toward the bookshelf, where the small black cylinder with the glowing blue ring sat quietly, like it hadn't just shattered the mood with its unsettling suggestion. George blinked. Did she just offer us a priest? I burst out laughing. I mean, I couldn't help it. The absurdity was too much. But then, I realized something. The device had responded to us, which meant it had been triggered by something we said, or by how we said it. And that was when it got weird. I stood up, grabbing the remote to kill the background music. Okay, that's creepy, right? George still looked amused. Maybe she just thought we were having a spiritual crisis. I shook my head. No, George. You have to say Alexa to trigger her. We didn't say her name. He froze too. Neither of us had said Alexa. Not once. I walked over to the device and asked, "Alexa, did you hear that last conversation?" Her light flickered. Then, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that." Liar. I unplugged it. George tried to laugh it off. It's probably just a glitch. They happen all the time. Yeah, I said, but my voice didn't sound convinced. Glitches don't recommend spiritual guides mid-foreplay. We joked about it for the rest of the night. But when George went home the next morning, I started thinking more seriously. What else had Alexa heard? I went onto my Amazon app and checked the voice history log. You can request your device's recordings. Most people don't even know that. I'd only done it once months ago, when I thought she misheard me asking for the weather and played a Nickelback song instead. I downloaded the log. There were dozens of entries. Most of them were normal stuff. Me asking about the weather, setting timers, playing music. But then I saw one labeled, Audio recording, March 18th, 11:46 p.m. That was the night George and I were together. The time matched exactly. I pressed play. The recording started with a laugh, my laugh. Then George's voice, clear as day. You feel like a sin I don't want to confess. My breath caught in my throat. More audio followed. Groaning. Moaning. Words I don't even remember saying. It wasn't just snippets. It was multiple minutes of audio. I slammed the laptop shut. My hands were shaking. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't a joke. Alexa had been recording us. Not just listening for her wake word, but actually keeping recordings. I deleted them all. Then I unplugged the device, took it to the sink, and held it under running water until the blue light died. I didn't tell George at first. I didn't want to freak him out. But a few days later, he texted me something that made my blood run cold. George, hey, weird question. Did you say something about a spiritual guide the other night? Or was that not you? I stared at the message. He hadn't been joking. He'd heard it too. It hadn't been just a glitch or a weird wine-fueled hallucination. I called him immediately. Told him everything. The recordings. The logs. The playback. The audio files with our names attached. George was silent for a long time. Then he said something I'll never forget. You think someone else heard it? I hadn't even considered that. But now I couldn't stop thinking about it. What if someone at Amazon was listening? What if the recordings were being stored somewhere, accessible to contractors or developers? There had been stories, whistleblowers, articles, but I'd never paid attention. Now I couldn't look away. That night, I went through every smart device in my apartment. My smart TV, the light bulbs, even the thermostat. If it had a mic, I either unplugged it or smashed it. I don't care if that makes me sound paranoid. Wouldn't you be? Weeks passed. George and I kept seeing each other, but something had shifted. We both felt it. That moment, when a machine interrupted something so private, had left a mark. We joked about it sometimes, but underneath the laughter was discomfort, a shared unease. One night, George came over with a gift. He handed me a small box and said, "For your peace of mind." Inside was a tiny white noise generator. No Bluetooth. No mic. Just static. "Let's make our own soundtrack," he said. I kissed him for that.